Some people like to outline in a Prisma pencil. That's fine. Some people like to outline in another type of pencil. That's okay. You can also outline in these pens, which are also, and I like the 05 as a general outline. And some people prefer a 90% cool gray or black. Either one is very nice to use. So pencils are easier than the pens to use because they're softer and they give you more line variation. So I'm just giving you a sense of that. Okay. Now, this has become a different design, so I'm going, she's got a heart here. I'm so tempted. Okay, I'm kind of redoing this a little bit. You don't mind that I redo it, right? No. Okay. So you're working really on the croquis when you're designing. I'm working on this body because it's a bigger body. Remember that. Don't think that I'm not, whatever. Okay, now let's try to incorporate this design into a try to develop it side to side, not just one side. Don't go along one side like a string, you know? All righty, now let's take a look and see how that goes. All right. I'm going to cut this off here. And I'm going to make this a bikini. Okay. Okay. So now I need coverage over a big area. So I have to decide where my pink is going, where my fabric placement is going. So let's say this is the main body, then I have pink here, up here, and then this becomes, maybe this will become the day glow here, the heart. Now, one way of keeping this clean is by taking out a clean piece of tracing paper so you don't bleed through the whole thing. And you can, I guess I'll do it like this. See, again, this pen is a little too narrow for this kind of large area rendering. So I have to say, it's a little easier when you have a broader tip, but sometimes in a pinch you have to make do. Okay. Now, if I'm doing my main body, if you look at this print, you'll notice that the black in it has a little roughness to it. It's not a hard edge. So when you look at your patterns, whatever, try to be sensitive to it. If you also look at this pattern, you'll see that there's one line where the geometric shapes radiate from. So it's always a good idea to take that line and make it central and work out from the center. Instead of working from one side across, work from the center so that you have like this. And it doesn't have to be an exact thread replica of the pattern. What you want to do is really just get a sense of what it looks like. I'm going to just mock up a little bit of it. So if you establish the main structure here, and naturally, this should have been, that's okay, that's all right. I'll have to, I'm going to outline this anyway, so it doesn't matter. So, I'm just going to fill it in. But you can see how the diamond shapes are falling in because I established the centers. See how even they come out? Because you establish that structure. So, okay, so then you can go into it, and this is really, you can fake it a little bit. In other words, you don't have to do it. See, that gives you the sense of it, right? Without making it too complicated. So in other words, even with this pattern, I am simplifying the pattern so it doesn't get overly complicated. And then I'll just add a little piece here, add a little piece there. Doesn't have to be. So that's what basically all these pieces have, is a diamond, is a triangular shape and a little shape on the interior. Okay? So if you put that in, you'll get the sense of the print. Now you can do this in pencil, you can do it in pen, whatever you're comfortable in. There's no right or wrong. But once I get this print in, and it's going to be in now because this is it. Okay, let's pretend it's in. Okay, now I'm going to outline the rest of it to give it a little more dimension, and then I'm going to put in a drop of shadowing to give it a little more dimension. So I'm going to now, outlining is something that's very personal. Some people like to do a full outline. Some people like to just do areas, do it a little bit of an accented outline. See, this is like a keyhole in here. And if you have to turn the piece too while you're rendering, you can turn it. Don't think you have to keep it in one direction. So in other words, if I'm doing this part of it, it's easier to bring my hand this way than to try to do it vertically. So you can turn your piece if you have to. Okay, so let's say I have my bathing suit. And now I just want to give it a little shadow. Now, shadow for this is very good. Sometimes in certain colors, you can use the color itself as a shadow color. Sometimes an easy way to do it is by using this 90% cool gray as a shadow color, or I can use a gray shadow like a number. And it's always good to test the color first. In other words, before I put a shadow on, I would want to establish a piece of the color and then test. Be sure this dries. Give it like 2 minutes to dry thoroughly, and then try a shadow. So I'm using cool gray as a shadow rather than a warm gray. See the shadow color? It should look soft. It shouldn't look like a black contrasted line. It should look very soft. So I was going to consider using Cool Gray 1, but I see now that the Cool Gray 1 will probably be a little too light. And I don't want to go over it too many times because it starts to get tired looking once you start to overwork it. So I don't want to do it that way. So here's where I'm putting the shadow. I'm going to put a little shadow underneath the collar. I'm going to put a little shadow on one side, more or less. Okay. And here. That's enough. And if I want to get very fancy, and I don't know whether it will show up, because sometimes the spandex, some of them are not as flat as these are. Some of them have a sheen to them, shiny, like a satiny color. So sometimes it looks good to add a little white. Just a little bit, like that, okay? That's it.